Hey, work with us. We're doing the best we can. We're not gonna work with you guys. Come on up, make your presentation or whatever.
You wanna have a seat at the table?
Yeah, sure. We're back on the meter deal, for the water system. We received a message from John Bonnet from Webb's that as of January 1st, prices on the meters, July 1st, the prices on the meters and parts are gonna go through the roof. So, what we've done, we did revisit, on the sheet that we handed out, the labor for the install and the parts. We allowed $7,500 for the install labor, and we looked at it as some are gonna be an hour, some are gonna be 2 hours, and we're gonna run into bad valves. We'll have to replace parts, a lot of them that are old. And the parts we put down for $7,000. So the cost of the meters and the system is the same, $27,768, $61 at this time. And like I said, we revisited the labor and the parts for the install, and it comes to $42,266.61. I can give you a copy of this. And we also, Riley had a quote from E.J. Preston on a little bit different style meter. Riley could probably explain them to you. They have them in the city. They're similar, but you've got some more moving parts, and I don't think they're quite as desirable. Just the base price on this was, I believe, $36,000. You know,
36,800, yep. And that's just from.
that's without the install and the labor, which would be the same 15.
Right.
So, you can explain to them what that system looks like compared to the other system?
Right, yeah, it's just, there's a few more moving parts, and we've had some issues with them down there in St. Albans, and we talked to someone that had this other system, and they had no complaints as far as batteries, and there's some wiring issues with the ones in St. Albans, and because there's a wire from the meter to the box, and sometimes the communication between those two things get a little lost, and whereas the other system is just a meter, so it's all one unit, you know.
So it's a simpler system.
Right, simpler system for installation, and then just maintaining, and there's just less things to break, you know. At the end of the day, it's just more desirable and easier to work on, and just makes it easier for everyone.
Yeah.
And they're much more accurate compared apples to apples, the EJP to the FW Web. The FW Web is much more accurate.
The support cost is more expensive for E.J. Preston too than the $900 we're gonna have to pay yearly to the construct.
And that quote there doesn't involve any training, where the Web's quote, that involves training for all of the reading equipment and all of the kind of the IT, I guess.
You guys, you've got the reading equipment, the equipment you need to read?
No, that's all
part of that.
That's part of this, yeah.
If you, I can give you
I got
both of these. If you, I just revised the bottom
Yeah,
where it was $7,700 for the install.
yeah,
I didn't give you any of these. This is E.J.
okay, yeah.
So your recommendation is the first one that we talked about.
Right, the FW Webs is our,
Yeah.
the cam strut meter is the one that we're much more interested in. Like we said, and it is cheaper in the long run. And yeah, it's just a lot more accurate, and anything's better than what we got right now, because we've got, seems like half our meters aren't even reading. We're doing nothing but losing money over there right now, so.
And what about John in the water district here? Was there?
I went to see him. I gave him the information. I told him that you people would be interested in speaking with him. I mean, I can't take him by the hand all the way, you know.
And he did call and say that he was coming tonight, so I'm surprised he's not here.
I called Frank. Frank I didn't know if they had, I know they had a meeting scheduled.
Yeah.
And Riley was gonna be there, but he had COVID, so we had to, bow out of that, so apparently they canceled their end too, so. I tried to get hold of him, John doesn't have I don't think he has a landline, but I didn't find his number. I did talk to Frank, and Frank didn't know much about it, I mean, I stopped at John's house and explained it to him, gave him the printout and everything, I was like, you know, that's about all I can do, unless they call me, and want to get together with this and show more interest, that's fine.
Yeah.
If not, I mean, I don't know what to do.
We got some time. I mean, if you know,
Yeah,
And we need
You guys-
three quotes, Kathy?
So, we've been talking back and forth, and as I've been getting more and more into the ARPA funding, the requirements are becoming more and more clear, and we are supposed to have a minimum of 2. We have to follow our internal purchasing policy with all of our recipients of funding. So that means in our purchasing policy, any purchases over $20,000 need a bid process. And so we've been talking about doing that as an open bid this time because he'd already been speaking to everybody. We can go through and what I don't want to do is have any problems with the feds when we have to report.
these are solid prices.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what else you want to do.
No, I just wondered if we needed a third, just
If we have
even a contact.
Yeah, if we have projects under $20,000, we require 2 bids. And we try to reach out to 3 or 4 just to make sure that we're equitable,
So
but
2's okay?
2 is okay.
Okay.
But what we are doing with this, if we decided to go in this route, is we're kind of circumventing that sealed bid process.
Yeah.
These
I
are.
think one thing I could suggest with the change in pricing on everything we do, we ought to be up in the amount of money for the bids, the amount required. Because what 20,000 used to buy is gonna be $35,000 or $40,000 now.
Well, this is why we revisited the install prices in the.
No, but I meant as our policy should, one thing
Oh,
should be
I see.
updated
Yeah.
in that policy,
oh, okay.
is make it somewhere around 50,000, because everything has changed so since we did that policy.
I have the policy and we can revise it, because I did want to talk to you guys about it.
These are the prices that they'll stick with until, I don't know about EJP for sure, I'd have to check with them, but, West, they'll stay with this price till July 1st, and like I said, he contacted Riley and said there could be a substantial raise, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's only so many vendors of meters around, I mean, in Vermont, it's not like we have, waterworks division on every corner, you know?
Do
There's,
you have any money in your own water district fund over there towards these meters?
We do have some money, and
Yeah, I mean, we take in basically about, around 32,000 a year.
Right.
But, you know, we do, this past year, we had some expenses and, you know, but we usually carry a balance of somewhere around at least 25,000 in a checkbook.
If you were to guess, I mean, estimate, maybe you made a reference to this, Riley, but so in some ways the investment could almost increase revenue because what percentage do you think is not getting billed because of
And I mean, we have people over there, like the other day, you had someone call, their meter wasn't working, but they had a leaking toilet, I mean, stuff like that, but it's like, that's, you know, I mean, there's,
well,
not necessarily that, but like,
explain to them.
people use a lot more water than what our meters are registering.
Explain
And-
the state regulation on that too.
Right, and whether we charge or not, every ounce of water that goes through that system needs to be metered through the state. That's a requirement.
Yeah.
So even if it's a town building, and we don't charge them for water usage, it still needs to be metered.
Well, that's it. So you could almost you could figure out amount billed and amount gone through the meter and see
Right.
see what the leakage is right now, right?
Right, yeah, yeah. And
With this new system, you punch this in, if you have people that are complaining about what the water bill is, and it prints out a graph, exactly what time it spikes, how much water they're using on a whole printout sheet. I mean, it's great.
And you don't even need to go in the house, which has been a huge thing the past 2 years, and, I mean, you see it all the time down in St. Albans, I don't necessarily wanna go in everybody's house either. 'Cause
Yeah, I imagine.
they're not always pretty. So,
So what more do we need to do to just make it to go?
I would suggest that we do what Gavin actually suggested, which is to change the purchasing policy before we approve this particular purchase, and that way we'll be in compliance. And, we also, want to make sure with the ARPA funding that we recognize that this is a partnership between the municipality and the water district. So as I've learned more and more about the ARPA program, compliance and reporting requires paperwork, lots and lots of paperwork that we actually have to share interagency-wide. So we'll have to put together what that means. There are definitely some things that you're gonna have to provide, but if this is the arrangement you wanna go in, then that was my suggestion.
So how much is the full total expense gonna be now?
The total expense for everything is 42,266.61 exactly.
that's for webs.
That's for webs.
And EJP without,
It's
without our labor.
36,000 just for this
Just
system.
I like the fact
Okay,
it's one simpler.
I'm thinking about a motion, I want you to think, give me a little feedback. I'm thinking about a motion of making a motion to amend our existing purchasing policy? Purchasing policy in light of inflation and because of time,
And-
that I'd like to change it from 20,000 to 50,000. I'd like to, that's the motion.
I'd second that one myself.
Okay.
So,
Can I discuss for just a second?
Of course.
I did bring, later on in the meeting, we were gonna talk about, the policies, and there was another section in the purchasing policy which would, wanted to propose to you to cover our requirements with federal grants, which is the ethical practices piece. And it just says goods and services shall be purchased in a manner that maximizes free and open competition. Officers and employees shall not participate in any decision concerning matters in which they have financial interest. Conflicts and appearance of conflicts of interest shall be avoided in order to assure public confidence in the operations of governments. Every effort will be made to actively recruit women-owned and minority-owned businesses to provide opportunities for local residents and businesses consistent with Section 3 of the Housing and Urban Development Act of 1968, and all procurement actions shall be conducted in public, and all records related thereto shall be open for public review.
I don't have any problems with adding that as a, amendment, and we can give that to Melissa for the minutes, but, amending my motion to
So
include.
you wanna amend your motion to include this?
Yeah.
The ethical practices.
Okay.
Is that all you, is that the complete?
That's the only
Oh,
change.
good.
Yeah. You second that?
I'll second that.
Second. All in favor of it?
All right.
Aye. We'll get that hurdle out of the way.
One other big thing about this is we've got 3 or 4 different kinds of meters, metric, gallons, and it's been a real headache. Ruth just set this up on a whole new program, and this actual program fits into this construct meter structure. Everything comes right out and prints your everything right out for you, so.
Okay, so what do we need to do to move forward with?
Well, this is just my opinion. I'm just wondering, is $10,000 too much to ask you guys to contribute, and we take the rest out of ARPA funds?
Well,
I'm just asking that, I'm not.
I mean, I appreciate whatever we can get, but also you have to keep in mind, we're fighting over
That roof on that.
that roof on that building, that's gonna be a big expense for us, and I got a feeling we're gonna get caught holding the bag on quite a bit of that. We appreciate whatever you can do,
Yeah,
but if you can't do it all, we'll have to pick up.
well, I'm just wondering if we do some of that, because if this money is available, some towards that water, the roof on that water building. Maybe a little bit towards this, we put 30 or minus 10,000 out of that.
I'm still working on those engineers. I mean, I've been having a hard time with it lately because everybody is so busy. And I've
Yeah.
called a lot of them. I have one guy that is really in where I want him to be, Tyler Billingsley of East Engineering. And I've called different places, Camp Precast, and he was highly recommended through their salesman. And I actually called Vermont Rural Water today, and they were telling me they worked on projects with him and they really like it. He's good and no problems. So, you know, I've been researching the ones that I've been trying to get hold of.
Right.
And I have a lot of luck with a lot of return calls on some of these, but I will get some bids on that as far as the engineering study.
Right.
And that's what we had talked about before and you voted on, but, that will put us in place to go after some of these state grants with, Northwest Planning Commission. We've been working with them for over a year now.
Yeah.
And this is the first step. And if we get that and get that done, then, we can move along with that. But like I said, we're here to try and secure
I'd like to
some
see you guys
funds.
get this thing started in place before
Yeah,
the prices
I
rise
appreciate
and everything else. So.
And we'll take whatever we can get towards this, and if we have to pick some up, we'll have to pick some up.
Those engineering calls that you made, have you documented that? So,
Yes,
okay, good.
And he said he was gonna give me the report.
And the thing is, if we've got working meters, we'll be getting more income, because I mean, we can't,
Yeah.
there's no way we can help.
Do you bill by the gallon or the quarter, or how do you guys do it?
it's so many gallons per quarter.
And you
And
see.
so much over, you know, you
Okay,
get, but, we got a substantial amount of meters down now, and that kind of,
yeah.
you know, state gets all that, we're in compliance, so we gotta get out there.
So another thing is the manpower. I mean, right now we have how many people? 4 people reading meters.
Well, yeah.
And I mean, they're all in their 70s. I'm not gonna be able to go and read everybody's, you know.
What's
It's a
up
part.
with that?
No offense, but
So don't know.
at the end of the day, it's a part-time thing, and I'm not gonna have time to run to everybody's house and read meters. You know?
Well, it's-
And finding people to work full-time is hard enough, so let alone part-time, you know, no one wants to.
It's like that guy in Georgia that explained to us, he said, I just parked my truck in 2 different locations, because it's spread out quite a bit in Georgia, and they have 150 connections, and he reads all the meters in 20 minutes.
From 2 places? Well,
Yeah, it's great, I mean, we could do it from one where we are.
So when you, say you put an order in for these,
Yes,
what's a realistic expectation for you to get them and being able to start to install them?
well, we'd start installing them
As soon as
right
you're
off.
receiving them, as you were receiving them, you-
Yeah, well, I'm not saying we can get them all, and we're gonna try to keep the cost down. John is gonna work with us, he's part of the water department, he'll work to, help us install them, he's a plumber. And, Riley and I will kick in too, you know, to help out, just to get it
He
done.
does have some in stock down there to get started.
okay?
And he said as soon as we commit, the price that they gave us is the price that it's gonna be. It's just about committing at this point. So even if we commit now and it's before July 1st, it's still gonna stay at that price and not, you know what I mean?
So what do you gentlemen wanna do?
Do a lot, yeah, I would say, do it. It's not gonna go down, so.
Well, it's not going down.
He's-
Hey, you guys just put a lot of effort showing up, coming, this end of town, if they wanna deal with it, they're gonna have to come to the meetings and make us some presentations.
It's a great thing, I mean, these meters are
Yeah.
unbelievable.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so Gavin asked a question, and I think we're getting to the point, there's a consensus that we wanna help you. Does it make sense to put some skin in the game for the district? You know, Gavin mentioned a number, is it like half of that number? I mean, you know, you are gonna,
I'm just throwing the number out there just to, I wanna see it work, so.
We're here to get, you know, how much
Right.
help we can get.
Right.
Because we're pretty much working on a shoestring, but,
right,
you know, and you have to comply with all these state regulations. We did quite a bit last year to comply, and, they're hard on small municipalities, you know, they treat you like you're.
well, how about this? How about just, you know, so we're talking about $42,000 plus change, and we all wanna move. How about the district come up with 10% of that, $4,200, and then the town says, we'll do the balance, you know, like,
I'm-
is that,
That sounds like a good thing to me, I'm happy.
so that's a 10%, and that might be, you know, like, we really wanna do, we wanna, with that spirit, we wanna make sure that you help us be compliant with the paperwork, cause you are kind of the first out of the chute. So we've amended our policy, but we wanna, you know, we want this to not only be good for you, but we also wanna be, you know, if we have an audit or we want transparency, we wanna have a paper trail. So for like the bids, you gotta work with us to make sure that, you know, we're learning too, and we wanna do it right. So,
Yes.
and so I don't think we, as a precedent going forward, when we have similar requests for other, you know, maybe 10% is a pretty good rule of thumb to start with. I don't know what other people think, but Tom, what do you, because Tom already made the motion and was voted for the engineering study, so we're already, I think we've already kind of committed to that. So
Yeah.
10%, is that something that's,
I think that's fair. I mean, I'm happy that you're giving us what you're giving us.
I don't know what other people,
So that's 36,000, you said?
It would be 10% of 36, correct?
No,
No, it's
42%.
10% of 42,
42.
260. Okay,
So
so-
we'd be kicking in $4,200.
right?
I think that's more than fair.
And how, with this ARPA funding, how does that work out?
It's 242.
They submit the bills for it as they get the parts or get the meters?
Gavin's asking you a question.
Oh, I'm
He's
so
just,
sorry.
I said,
Mechanic.
how do you, as they get the parts and the meters, do they submit the bills to you and they get paid from the ARPA funding we have in accounts, or how does this work?
So I'm setting up accounts now. There has to be, we have to identify what categories we want to invest in. This would be infrastructure. For each of those categories, we have projects. This would be one of the 2 projects. And each of the projects has to have accountability in all of the areas, from purchasing, staffing, all of the things that we would have to do to be compliant as an organization for a federal grant is now, you're in it too. So,
I don't have a problem with it.
yeah, so moving forward, I would like to draft, I mean, this is still early. I'd like to draft just an agreement that has sort of exactly what you would need to give us.
All I need is solid help from you and let me know what you need and I'll get it.
Yep, and I think that's reasonable. I'll just have to make sure that we're following.
But when they order these through Webs, is it gonna be under town of Fairfield, or how would that go? Or would it go water
So-
district number 1?
We've got an account there.
Okay, so it can go under
We can
you?
do it under Water District
Yeah.
1, however you wanna do it. I mean,
So if we're paying the bill, you can either pay and then we'll reimburse you, or you can approve the invoices, forward them over to us, and then we can pay, but the invoices would have to be made out to the town of Fairfield.
how would you prefer this to be done, like, for the town? Not just for this project, but
Yeah,
for,
the precedent that we have with the pavilion grant, which is a really great process, is that and this is actually what we do in departments, when you have an invoice, it would have to come into me signed by whoever's in charge of that project. And it would also need to be made out, that invoice would be made out to the town of Fairfield. So you would be the authorized signers, and then you could just package them together, send them to me, I'll give you the dates of when I need those by, and we'll put a schedule together.
So, I got a question on that. If we actually have an account with Webs, and that's not a problem. We could go ahead, when it's okay to do that, and order all the meters and the parts we need. And what is the period in between that and when we get a check from the ARPA funds?
We meet the select board meets every 2 weeks. The Wednesday before the meeting, all invoices have to be given to my office, and I process those invoices with the accounts payable, and then those checks go out the next day.
Oh,
So it's every 2 weeks we have accounts payable,
okay.
but it really requires that deadline of at least the Wednesday before.
okay, not to make more work for you, but could you,
I'll put
you
that
cut
on
a lot,
top.
yeah, if you had that in writing,
Yeah.
and then for this these gentlemen, these people, folks of this project, but we can have a written procedure for like future, so like you make out the invoice, it comes to our meeting, we sign it, it's transparent, it's open, and that's the way we're gonna do it going forward.
And that's similar to that email that I sent to you a few weeks ago. There was a long email that had these, so it would be very similar to that.
Okay, okay. I'm just-
Did we vote on that? Do we?
No, you didn't.
No, we need to vote on that. Go back to the amount of monies, I believe.
You didn't vote on the purchasing policy change.
We did or did not?
Did not.
Oh,
Oh, I thought we had.
I thought they
We
did.
did.
Yeah,
They did, yeah, we all approved.
Ron seconded it.
I got a first and a second, there was no vote officially.
Yeah, Gavin asked for the vote.
I asked for the vote, everyone said yes.
Okay, missed it.
He's just so smooth.
Yeah, there you go. Quiet. May God bless.
So you do not have a
so-
motion or a vote yet for this.
So we need the motion to do the 42, I guess we should have a real number there,
42.
61. I have the number.
And a 10% contribution
would be,
by the water district.
which would be $4,226.
And then we will, I guess that we will fund it, the balance through the ARPA funds.
So this isn't a problem that we wanna go with Webb, can we be the one to make that decision?
I would just make sure that we have the papers, I would just need both quotes.
Yeah.
And then a cover sheet that says that you wanna go with this vendor, and then I'll put that in our file, and we'll keep going from there.
I did give both codes to Ron.
Okay, good.
Those would be considered the bid, or do I have to?
Sure, yeah, those are the bids.
No, the way I've changed this policy, that's,
We just changed it, so
Okay.
it can be.
we have to go on that.
Well, great.
Now, we have a account with Web, so they,
Well, they have, it's either way, whatever works, I think.
It doesn't matter with
if
us.
the invoice is gonna go to the town of Fairfield, I would think it'd be under our account.
Okay. However you want
And
to
then
do it.
just say for water district number
Yeah,
one.
yeah, just make sure.
Meters and such, and then we can,
Okay,
Kathy will have it to enter it in the right spot.
And I'll just create a compliance agreement that you can sign, and I'll sign it.
So-
I'll make a motion that we fund Water District number 1 for $42,260
$266.
minus 10%, which is $36,000.
4,266.
Okay, and that we also ask Water District number 1 to help us refine our ARPA procurement. I don't need to put that in there. That's aside. That's the motion is the money. And the money is, that's the motion.
yeah, no, we'll do, you let me know what I gotta have for paperwork, and we'll make sure you get it.
Will you
And I'll
second
second that.
that? Okay, is there anyone opposed? I'll take a vote. Everyone in favor?
Aye.
No one else has any questions about our water department, I've got both ears, so.
No, we would, you know what, I would like to know, just gee whiz, you told us that you keep, either an annual or quarterly, what the water meter says.
Yeah.
I'd like to know what you're billing.
Okay,
So if it's X and it's like X minus 30%,
there you go.
and I'd like to, I don't need to know it now, but I would like to know after you make the investment,
Yeah.
if it's, X, what the delta is. It'd be interesting if you have 4 people reading meters. I'd also like to know, a year from now, okay, we can do it with one person, part-time, or whatever, it'd be, the taxpayers would like to know.
We won't need meter readers anymore.
Yeah, we would like to know that we're making, this investment is good for the people of Fairfield, and that, that this is, we're saving labor and not going to homes, and that we're not, having leaky faucets and leaky toilets and.
The operator gets a salary, and that's included in the salary, right now, we pay people to read the meters, and it's-
Yeah, no, I
So we're gonna have
understand,
that
so,
savings.
yeah, so that's what I'm saying, so it would be interesting a year from now,
Just compare apples.
yeah, we'd like to know, that,
It'll be easy to do, because we'll have a monthly
Sure.
billing, we'll just take one of the old bills, you can see.
they try to go back a couple of times, nobody's home, and.
Yeah, I can
you
imagine.
know,
It
So,
makes
Yeah.
sense.
it's just a mess, it really is.
Yeah, if you see John, tell him, a month from now,
Cause they must have to do similar here, right?
Yeah, and they're about the same situation, they got areas around where it came.
Talk
No,
to
they
Albert.
send postcards, everybody reads their own meter.
But they're original meters, and
Yeah,
how many years has this water system been in?
it's gonna be 30.
After 15, they're no good anyways, so.
Yeah.
sounds good. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, thanks for your time, and thanks
Yeah.
for your money. And, just contact me and let me know what you need, make sure you get it.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah.
Thank
See you
you.
later.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Does it come up to the lawsuit?
So has anybody had a chance to look at the minutes? I'll get that out of the way right off the bat.
I read them, they look okay to me.
Does someone make a motion to accept?
I make a motion to accept the minutes.
Anyone second?
That's second.
Is there anything that needs to be changed or doesn't seem quite right to you before we go vote on accepting them as printed? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No, I guess we're on through. So I guess according to this, the next thing we need to do is Dewar Road Project Construction Inspection Services, bid opening.
So those bids are right in front of you guys, the scissors and opener pen.
I'll let Ron go at it with a steadier hand.
We have two bids that came in. There you go. We have scissors right there. We grab those scissors for that.
Wow.
It is sealed.
No, 36. That's what doesn't matter if it's this district or the other, I think they're both need to kind of sign it so that we're not getting the game.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
That's the other.
I'll do it.
Nice.
Thank you, Linda.
Quite the difference.
Would you?
Yeah. It sure does look like we're gonna need to take some time with this to see what they did differently. I think we're gonna need to see what they did differently because their total expenses
Well,
are
I
so
was just
different.
thinking the same thing.
This one's
You have the total.
Yeah, no, it's either 99 or 72,000.
What's this one?
This one's 99.
So I'm looking at Stantec and the bottom line on that, project total expense costs.
$77,807.
Yeah, 72.
72,807.
72,807, yeah.
But then you get another price on the back of that page, another 6,000.
63.
So the first page, this is a question, the first page is labor, right? And then the second page, yeah, the first page is labor and the second page is direct. So that'd be 72, that's $79,000 for this first quote, right? 79,000. These are very, and the second quote is 99,600.
And the difference is the hourly, it looks like there's a really different hourly fee from these.
I kind of like to direct our administrator to review these, or not act on these right now.
Right, and Tom and I were just saying, you should have Tyler look at it.
Sure,
Sure.
yeah, definitely.
He's doing the whole thing on the other part, and these guys whacked or what?
Do you want a motion? Would you entertain a motion that we have?
I'll make
Our
a motion
minister-
that Tyler look at it, or
Right, and give us a little guidance, so we're doing apples to
I
apples
second.
for the service. You second that?
Yep.
Okay,
we can do it at
so everyone's in favor of us having Tyler look these, go through them, make sure they're apples to apples in price,
and if
the
the,
services rendered.
if the lower bid is, if they're both the same, we will accept the lower bid.
If the lower bid is compliant, we'll accept.
Yeah.
Is that as part of the motion?
Yes,
Sure.
Yeah.
so we don't have to carry it on, we
Yeah.
just have it done.
So is everyone in favor of doing it that way?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is anyone opposed? If not, that's how we're gonna handle this.
That's good. So I'm gonna.
I've got one.
Okay.
You can take this.
I'm gonna give you the whole package.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
I guess I'll
You should
keep.
have one.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
I need one of those.
Okay. I'm sorry, Ron, I apologize. I was looking at Linda's cookies.
No, I'm wondering what that might have to take one home, so you can get that
Do a
one.
little more analysis yourself. Okay, so that's how we're handling that one tonight. Guess we might as well get Mo up here and let him jabber for a few minutes.
Oh, here, you go. Thank you.
Calcium chloride. 98 cents a gallon this year.
What was the last year, 87, 85?
Yeah, 87. Including all running.
So it runs about the same?
Yeah.
And that's, who's that through, Mark Target?
No,
Oh,
I'm going.
and on the tank, what did we wind up doing? in the end?
We did not, the width of the tank has been an issue for setting it up. Gordon didn't have one, and but McEwen thought they had one, but it was too wide.
You see, Webb's has got all kinds of tanks out there now.
I didn't even think of it.
Wide, too wide, to sit up in that hill.
No, the tank on the side of our big
Oh.
2,000 gallon tank was sitting in the dump, with chloride on the water.
And tanks are looking at it like 4 inches too wide.
Yeah. So,
But Webb's might be one to check.
They had a bunch of different sizes out there.
Very good.
we're still gonna, we got a 1,000 gallon tank we've got, had on the ton truck, we're still gonna put out, if we don't do anything different, we're still gonna put out in one of the big trucks and put the full 1,000 gallons in it and spray it. So, if I get the okay, I can get our tanks filled for our chloride, 'cause it's,
Need it, probably.
Yeah,
Be
it's-
okay. Ain't gonna get any cheaper.
no, it's.
I'll make a motion, you can buy it.
Someone second that?
I'll second that.
Okay, anybody opposed? No one is? Off we go.
The blacktop. Right now is East Fairfield, Mill Street, New Street, Bridge Street. I got hold of 3 different, Hutchison's, Pikes, and, Wexham. They ain't called me, give me a call back, actually I called them tonight, so, should get a call, get some bids in.
Get some bids
next
up,
week.
but hopefully by the next meeting.
Yeah, I will make sure, I think for the 9th or next one, of May. Is that
Sounds
right?
about right.
No, it's, this is, oh yeah, that's right.
May 9th?
Mhm.
I'll make sure they all have them in to us.
Can you, mention to them the grant one, what's that?
Yeah.
And just let them know that we would like them to also commit to that if pending grant
Pending, yeah.
pending.
That, I caught them, I don't know what they do call, I caught 2 for 1 when I got, grant from the state, it's like 175 for a blacktop, that's on the Cheshire Arthur Road. Starting above Ned's and, past the Imps Road,
Okay, yeah.
roughly, that's probably what the money would go.
Pretty bad, pretty rough through there.
Yeah. I was hoping we could take some of that hump, what do you call it? money
Oh,
there?
ARPA money.
ARPA money.
They spotted me taking
Does
pictures of
anybody
that.
down Chester Arthur needs?
I mean, for blacktop, we should try to fix that by the rail trail, right?
Yeah.
Take it out
Yeah,
or
blow
put some
it.
stones and
Yeah, more there.
drain it to the side or something.
Put some fabric in there, I think that's,
I mean, if you're gonna blacktop, it's, now's the time to fix it before you
Mhm.
do like the state, put blacktop down, then dig it up afterwards.
could that
When,
be,
did he say when that grant, do they, is it July, do they know?
So they're hoping to get it, I don't know, I talked to
Did he come
Jim.
with a date?
Jim Coda said that he was going to look at everything that came in and
Yeah.
get back to us as soon as possible about all of the grants that we put in.
Yeah, I guess one about the paving one, that's it.
What's their tax responsibility at those crossings? What are they gonna do? Probably be a good thing to coordinate together, cause they're probably digging that up anyway, so.
I don't, on Cheshire Arthur Road, I don't know where they are gonna.
I don't know what they've done to there, but they started on Ryan Road, heading back
Oh,
towards that.
they've got the whole thing, so.
Yeah. Cause where down there on the Chester Arthur Road, was it 2 years or 3 years ago? We dug it up, placed culvert, and put stone in and everything.
Yeah.
I don't know what their plans are, and see if you get hold of one of the guys and talk to them.
I think, I don't know if it's, is it Rita's son-in-law, that Decker, he works for him? The oldest girl.
I got a son-in-law that works for them too.
He does. I think he's kind of managing this thing, that Decker, I'm not 100% sure of that. Get some answers and see what can work with them.
Okay to give them your number, Mo?
Yeah.
I'll tell them that I'll give you a call.
Okay.
And say, they've got an office in the community center too.
Right.
That's
Okay.
right.
Yeah, you can just stop
They're
there.
renting a room up there.
Oh, I know
That's where they're working out of.
that. Yeah.
That probably makes more sense stopping there.
I don't know if they're just, going through the roads, just blending it in, or if they're gonna dig up the road as they go through. I mean, they're gonna be going through a lot of roads,
Mm-hmm.
cause they got it all the way to St. Jonathan, right?
It goes to, doesn't go, they've already got it done part up there, but I think their tax got it from the creek to Cambridge.
2.9 million.
Wise investment.
I love the trails.
Three-quarters of a million, that bridge it helps.
Huh?
They'll have 3/4 of a million. that
I
bridge
would
it helps.
suspect the way they've gone about it, Tom, I don't disagree.
Oh,
We should have sublet him the bridge, going to House Road. Okay, what else you got, Mo?
And I don't. This town garage, that door yard there, we're gonna think about it sometime soon, blacktop and, yard over there.
Yeah.
What's the door situation they do?
Yes, they're coming tomorrow, put the 2 new doors in, and. put the
Taking
two-
those panels to
two-
them all.
Yeah, and put the new
Good.
sealant, or whatever you call it, all around them. Yeah, they called me last week. Tomorrow we're supposed to come Tuesday one.
We're all set with that, right?
But,
Probably wouldn't be a bad idea
For
when
the
we get
garage
these guys
doors?
around,
Indoors.
trying to fit on
Yeah,
these
that's
big
okay. I
projects,
believe we're gonna do.
to ask them what kind of deal they would offer for doing that.
They're over there.
Yeah.
but you gotta do some work to it first, right? Is there a couple soft spots?
Yeah, where the culvert's humped up between the 2 fire department and town garage.
Right.
Is that what they were working on, they had cones out there?
No, little floats in the
Oh,
tank again. Can't. Got it going again. Don't know what happened, when the power all went out, came back on. Side beat and everything out. Nothing we could do, we just shut it off. Yeah, I can. Change something. Doors and that.
Well, I'm just looking at the minutes, and I don't wanna go, if we already covered this, St. Rock's Culvert needs a bridge instead of a culvert. Jim Coda's gonna talk with Bethany Remmers to see if we're able to include as part of the hydrological connected roads, Mo to follow up. I don't think you were here at the last meeting.
Yeah, it was, I talked to Bethany, and she said we need to get a hydraulic study done, and I think they call it the Clean Water Act. She's gonna try to get money there, and they paid a good portion of it for the bridge.
oh, yeah?
Yeah,
Oh, that'd be handy.
yeah,
That's for the one we started on the bottom.
Yeah.
yeah.
And we knew that, there had to be a bridge.
Yeah,
When we
we
replaced
got,
it. Should have been, we didn't do a hydraulic study? when we were
no,
talking?
for I don't know, we haven't.
We just prepared and got it, so.
Yeah, but I thought we,
No,
I think it's one of those deals we talked about it, but we didn't follow.
Jim Smith was there and, Chris Burnell. And Chris Burnell and Jim both with the width of the current, or the
Broke above.
brook, it's gonna be gonna have to be a bridge. Can't make a big enough structure.
Do we hire for a hydrological study, Mo, or is that something we?
That would be Chris, and I would contact him to come out and take a look and give us a
State.
study.
Okay,
Except
so
for the state, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
do you require a motion for that, or are you gonna?
I can just go ahead
I
if you
think
guys
that's
want.
just an instruction.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, that's right in the minutes, number 5 from our great note taker, Melissa. So, number
So
5,
I'll follow up with Bethany, and I'll also follow up on the hydraulic study.
cool.
She said that.
From the minutes, traffic, and I don't know if we wanna go in there, but it says traffic issue in East Fairfield, discuss at next meeting.
It's on the agenda.
Oh, okay. Outstanding,
Way ahead of you.
outstanding, good.
Okay, so Mo, do you have anything more you need to bring up?
Then somebody mentioned about a backhoe once. I don't know how. I shouldn't know what year it is. But it needs some work sometime, the motor, it's,
Getting tired?
yeah. And the stem, and, we got the bucket and the twisted wrist and all that, it's
Needs-
the way wrong,
Needs new bushings and
it's
all.
something, it's pretty sloppy.
Yeah.
But,
That was a used one when we bought that. Was it $96 or $206?
like I said,
It ended at 6, I can't remember which, the guy out of Barry that, when we bought that one.
and the issue with the computer,
I would just, contact Cat and John Deere and Case and see if they got used ones or what a new one, and just to get.
Just get some number,
Okay.
and maybe also, you know, if we were to put money into this, how much would we have to put in to make it so it was worthy for you guys to be using it, you know?
Yeah.
Stay going.
You know, it's a John Deere, so it's gonna
Yeah,
cost a lot.
So get some quotes on
Yeah.
the replacement.
If they could use one or new one. I don't imagine you find any new ones, I mean, I think the used equipment's just like everything else, they're
Mine
more,
used pickup, yeah.
more than new one, you know, right near.
Yeah.
Would you be better off with a rubber tired excavator than a backhoe or?
Well, I don't know where, I'm sure we'd have to buy one of those used, cause I don't know any of those around here, but it'd be quite a chunk of change on that. Trying to make, what did we pay for that? Did we pay for it? I think it was less than that. It's kinda
Well,
easy.
do you have the reach that you need? That's what you're getting at, Ron, right?
Oh, you can use.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Commercial ditching.
Yeah, at least maybe look for
For me, rubber tired, we had one over there, pretty, you know, you don't need a huge one.
See, we've always done the hired help to ditching simply because they always had the truck and then
Yeah.
moved
no,
it and all
no,
that.
that makes sense.
And you gotta have a good operator,
Yeah.
an experienced operator,
Oh,
that
no,
makes such a
no,
difference,
that
doesn't
makes
matter what
sense.
piece of equipment you got. But,
I think even like putting a culvert in or something, excavator, is definitely a lot better used,
yeah,
a lot easier.
well, let's get some numbers on this stuff and start exploring it, that's all we can do.
I think basically the backup, just starting to back up for the loader, you know, in case
Right.
Yeah,
you
that's-
need a bucket, a
Oh,
second bucket
yeah.
just in case, so. That's why we always went with the backhoe.
It makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, if the loader goes down in the wintertime,
Oh, yeah.
Okay, anything else, Bob? You will check on that, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, see what we can get for some.
Cat, John Deere.
I can call Case Way if you want. I'll do a service
I
call.
was gonna say, that's great, still doing it.
I was just gonna ask that. What did he put?
He's always up to ground, I'll give him, I got his number. Save you one less call, okay.
Yeah.
I'll work.
Sure. I got out the blacktop and the chloride, so.
No, good enough. If you don't have anything more, we're gonna move on.
Yep.
You done? Thank you. Linda, what you got?
Did you come up with anybody to fill those 2 seats, or this 1 seat in the subcommittee for, regional planning?
Did you get any responses at all?
Okay, I'll let them know that they're vacant, and so part of this too was the municipal assessment this year is $2,289 for regional planning, which is, what is it? I asked what that was based on, so it's, $112 per capita. So, you're all set with that?
Didn't get any interest, no one even just inquired?
But the amount is,
Right.
you're approved, okay.
You got 2,000 residents roughly.
Okay,
That's pretty good money.
Yeah, well, money invested pretty well there.
if this pipe that comes in the basement that, it's been plugged up a couple times, but it's been leaking, of course, right near our whole infrastructure of our computers. So I don't know if somebody who can look at that and come
What's
up
the
with.
pipe have in it? Is it just a 4-inch pipe that comes in or something?
It is, and someone, did some work on it before, I can't remember who plugged it up. But, when Matt was here last week, he said it's leaking and you know, so that's where all our stuff is, right on the wall where all the brains to the operation are.
Oh, Larry, see if he, something, you might recommend somebody if you can't do it.
So it's just a 4-inch pipe that was put into the wall, nothing in it?
Water.
Well, I think it's got the
Also needs,
phone conduit or something.
Oh, it's,
so wires are coming through it, but the water's coming also. So where it comes up from ground level, must need sealant. Is that something you guys could do, Paul?
Look at it.
Foam or sealant, something on the top where it's coming in, it's gotta be the way it's getting in there.
it must be, it goes up the outside or something, it must come in that way, right? Wouldn't be under, if it was under the ground, it wouldn't be bothering her, it's gotta be up in the air.
Well, yeah, it could be that PVC pipe that we use is letting it. I don't know what the connection looks like out there, so I'm not gonna.
Just look at it.
Let's take a look at it, see if it's something we can do or get Larry, Super Larry, take a look at. Get it dried out.
Okay, and there was a question about Chester Arthur room usage for, next Saturday. And I'm not available to be here next Saturday for people to use the Chester Arthur room. I'm very hesitant to let people use this space, which is connected to all the other spaces with computers. Not all the offices are locked.
Can they be locked?
They're not.
I
as a
know they're
rule.
not, but
Right.
can they be locked? Are there keys for the locks?
There are keys for the locks.
What time do they wanna use it?
I'm not sure. It's next Saturday.
Cause if it coordinates with when I'm doing mail,
You could let them in and you could,
and I could lock them in.
okay,
But it depends what time, you know.
yeah. Well, it's just the whole,
Only Melanie's door is not locked, and we can lock that. Melissa's door locks, doesn't it?
yeah, everything locks. It's just having people in here when someone isn't here that's an office staff.
I mean, I'm
Having-
doing mail, so I could kind of check on them. I drive by.
Yeah,
What's the purpose of use?
it's the North Fairfield Cemetery Association.
Mars.
wanted
Yeah, thanks,
to
Jim.
have
Final.
their annual meeting.
I'll try to work with them and coordinate it, if Melissa would be willing to do this.
So,
Yeah, just find out what time they wanna do it.
okay,
Give them my email.
okay, because it's Paula, so
Oh, good.
it just,
Give them my email.
okay. Because, you know, it just, and that's another thing about using this room in the building. You know, policies were updated, because I found something old, and then there was something newer that I think Jonathan came up with. The older one said there were no fees and yada, yada, yada. The new one said there are fees, which you wouldn't charge the cemetery association.
Right.
So just, the other piece is the alarm system. Somebody's gonna have to open up the building and shut off the alarm system. You're not gonna wanna give somebody a key. In the past, Amanda has given people keys. I'm not for giving people keys to use the building. But then you're not only letting someone in, but then somebody has to be here to do the security. You're not gonna say, oh yeah, by the way, you know, this is the code to the security. So there's a lot of different pieces than there used to be.
What about is your assistant available? No.
No. But you don't,
I just remember the last time I
yeah,
messed up the alarm and
yeah, and Kathy got called.
It only takes, I had the one time since I started working
the
here.
cops called and said, you know,
Yeah.
who are you,
But
what are you
this,
doing?
so it's a different situation than when it was built and it was supposed to be, and, you know, now we have security, we have,
Well, if they can coordinate their time with me.
I was gonna say, let's try to make it work if we can.
with
Since
that,
you can't use anything up at school anymore, since.
yeah.
And I would volunteer except it's Mother's Day weekend, so I'd
Yeah.
have.
But in the future,
Old school.
Common school.
yeah, they're probably not set up for a meeting over there.
It's a pit right now,
Yeah.
to be perfectly honest.
The thing is
They
that,
offered me to go over there and it's just, it's not.
Oh, I just figured, I mean, it's just a meeting, Must be one room they take it, I mean, if this is technical, if they can use that.
Well, no, but in the future, what, you know, as far as I'm concerned, anybody that wants to use this building during office hours or, you know, or something, but, you know, what is your feeling on this usage of this room as a public space?
Well, that's why it was added to the town hall.
But during, you
And that's
know,
what the federal monies that were given for this were for community use as a town hall, as a community meeting place. So I guess in the spirit of how it got built, we should try to work to accommodate as much as we can, not
Right.
always, but as much as we can.
but someone, I mean, it is my thought that you're not wanting to give people codes to security systems, that it is to be used when someone that normally is in the building or has access to the building and the codes is available to accommodate.
Yeah. And also maybe some fee, maybe something of enough justification to pay somebody that is eligible to open and close it, to give them some compensation for doing it.
Right.
You
It's
know,
me, I don't need it,
Yeah.
I don't care. I'm here,
No, but
I'm
I'm
in
just
town.
saying,
under other,
You
not
know,
something, a nonprofit like that, but if somebody wanted to use
Right.
it for some other
Right,
thing, say, oh, there is a fee with it, because we have to pay someone to come in to unlock the place.
Well,
Relock
bigger
it,
than
set the
that,
code
what about
systems.
like a cleaning fee if they make a mess,
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know?
well, I mean,
Then you have to pay Carrie to come in and clean it.
yeah, I mean, that makes sense, if, you know, someone is available, if Kristen was available to come in that day and be here for the meeting, then you're paying that person to babysit the meeting, or,
And I'm comfortable coming in on the days that I don't already have a commitment, but I did have one that day.
yeah, and that's,
And my schedule is flexible and I'm salaried, so it, you know, for the most part, that could work out.
right, it just happened to be on a day where I can't do it, and wondering what your feelings are
I'd
on,
like to see it used as much as it was, because that's what it was promoted as. That's just my feeling.
No, I agree.
I agree.
but it's just with,
But I wouldn't give anybody any.
No.
No.
No, I'd say you're doing.
Well,
it
I'm looking at the sensor on that door right there, so that tells me that's part of the security system, but it'd be a way to like,
There's also a motion.
yeah.
well,
The thi-
I can see that, it'd be interesting, a little bit of finagling that, you know, like, no security system, that door has a, you know, I don't know,
But
I
you
don't wanna.
have to have access to a bathroom.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, details.
yeah, the bathroom, and so, anyway, that's all, and they have to, I mean, this door gets unlocked on a Saturday, it's the security system, you have so many seconds to go and punch in the number.
Yeah, no, I'm just
So,
saying, it would,
yeah.
it might be ways to, I mean, there are ways to make things a little easier,
I was thinking the same thing.
user friendly, you know, that isn't quite as complex with the security systems.
Well, except for the bathroom.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but there's still, I mean, you could have a code that's good for one day, and then it changes code, you know, there's all kinds of ways to get into buildings.
Yeah,
But sounds like you got a solution possibly on Saturday.
so, it's on, not this Saturday, it's the following Saturday.
Fine,
Okay, I
I'll be
will,
working.
okay.
What else you got there, buddy?
I would think they could coordinate with your hours, if they wanna have a meeting.
I mean, it's 8 to
Yeah,
5,
that's what I'm
so
saying. I
whatever.
think they could-
Right, and basically, if you let them in and they lock the door behind them. But
Yeah,
just,
and
and
then
then you
I
can
can come
stop and activate
the alarm after.
the alarm after.
Yeah, because I can open it at 8 o'clock in the morning, or in the mid of the day, like 11, whatever. So
Yeah,
I
I'll
can-
find out and I'll let you know, but I just
Yeah,
wanted to bring it up, maybe, you know, there is the policy in place, just something to look at and update some more and figure out. That was about it.
That's all you have?
Is that enough?
That's all you want.
I
Melissa,
should,
do you have anything right now?
I should have asked about the, Melanie asked me about the Frog Hollow signs. I should have asked when Mo was here. The thing that, the invoice she got has 2 signs for Frog Hollow, do you know why?
One on each end, I think, or something like that.
No, it's
There
not,
is no end,
Oh, I'm not sure why there are two.
there should not be, to my knowledge,
It's a dead end.
it is.
I know that he put up the signs that we have, and then the invoices are out, so we can just go look at the road and see where he put them. I don't know.
Where's Frog Hollow?
Alex Watson's.
Up the Black Hole.
Yeah,
Private drive, right?
it is. So just with that in mind, with the private drive in mind, Melanie is gonna be responsible for billing for this last round, and then going forward, we've decided we like to just include it in, like the permitting fee. How much do you want it to be, because you're in charge of permit fees, so do you want it to be just the cost of the sign? Do you wanna charge something for labor, because we are going to install the signs?
I would a little bit.
Yeah. We need work from home, come up with a reasonable number for the installation. You know, how much they're gonna have in it, hours.
Do they do it by hand or do they do it by?
It took him one day. I looked at his timesheet. He put them all up in one day, and
There were 4.
there were 4.
2 hours.
2 hours a sign roughly.
And the cost of the signs are in this week's AP, so I can give that to you too.
that only makes sense because having all billed up front.
Yeah, we'll do it as
Simple.
part
Then
of
you
the
get paid,
permitting
then you
fee.
get paid for it.
Yeah.
No argument.
It's not.
Yeah, and I told her to bill them for it this round, and if they argue about it, to just forget it, cause we paid for them before, and we didn't tell them up front cause we've been paying for them, so. Not to fight with it, but going forward, we wanna fix it.
Mhm.
So it'll be the cost of the sign plus 2 hours.
Probably, roughly. Well, let's ask Momo too, but
But you think of travel time, I mean, depending on where they are,
right.
I mean, you get there, you set the sign
Yeah,
up.
I think you should have a solid, just a flat fee, whatever it
Yeah.
happens to be.
Yeah,
And
That's the cost of the sign.
the signs are
The-
roughly what?
they range from $36.50 to $48.
So $48 plus 2 hours.
$48.50.
No, he
So-
was, didn't he come up with a price of 135?
135 is what's in my head.
135, because you have to have all the brackets, the
And the posts
posts
and
and
everything.
everything.
$135 was the number that we got before.
Yeah,
Okay,
So that's the sign, the bracket,
the post,
and then probably they gotta put those breakaway posts in, you know? That's why they're
Yes,
so
they
darn
do.
much.
they set them in concrete.
But that $135 is just the sign.
just the equipment.
That
So you're
does
gonna
not
get
include-
reality, you're gonna have $250 in this thing. If you think about it, if you're gonna have a guy out there for 2 hours, using a town truck.
Yeah.
You know, you're with a sign, the whole thing,
250?
I think that's a realistic
New
number.
Installation,
Okay.
250, yeah.
And I think it's pretty realistic when you got over half of it in materials.
Okay.
Now, if you're just replacing a sign that was stolen,
It will be the same. Everything is the same. The only thing that would be different is the portion of the breakaway that's in the ground.
right,
Because the post will be damaged.
Most of the time.
Most of the time they hit
Yeah.
a truck or whatever.
Yeah.
So most of the time the post is
Yeah.
damaged. The time to install,
We were saying for
probably
the
won't change much.
signs run from
Time will be
36
the
to
same.
40-something dollars, and you gotta put the breakaway posts and all that, and brackets and mold, it said that was gonna cost $130-something. So we're talking $250, putting their feet, put down their labor and all that to cover. That's gonna be the whole thing in the ground the first time. You know,
Well, why would it be different after the first time?
well, you won't have that in the ground one, that's the hardest one to get in, most places.
Or if they only steal the sign, you only have to
yeah,
replace
they
the
only see
sign.
the sign.
Well, most of them take a sawzall and cut the damn sign down.
We still learn a couple times, we take the bolts out.
Well, that was not full of them.
So it left the ground part in,
Ground power is still there.
because that's the expensive
Yeah.
to install. Okay, 250 first time. So because that's a fee that you are a new fee you're creating, you should probably do it as a motion.
Would someone make a motion for that fee for new private road signs?
I will.
Okay, $250 installed, everything done. Someone second that? Yeah.
Okay.
Is everybody in favor? Is there any more discussion first? There isn't? Everyone in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Guess it goes through.
That's all I have.
Okay. Guess Kathy, you're up for that.
Okay, well, do you wanna start with good news or bad news? The excise tax penalty invoices showed up in our mailbox for $6,261.90. I have.
So excise tax, that's the IRS tax? or
It's an IRS, so an excise tax is an IRS tax that we can be reimbursed by once a year if we submit all of the information that's necessary.
Of course not.
And then we were audited, we got notice of audit last summer, which was overlooked. And so the information that they were requiring, which is all of, it's a whole packet of information about, how much we paid to whom and for what purpose. I sent this in as soon as I noticed that we were delinquent on getting this in. And I showed that to you in one of our meetings, and then, as soon as we got the invoices, I called, the excise tax people and was on hold forever, and I got through and faxed everything to Ms. Lazenby, so now they've had it twice. But the dilemma is that all of these invoices are due by May 2nd. So we have there's a pile of invoices for fines and reimbursement of the money that we were given, and that comes to $6,261.90. So.
I'm ignorant about this, so an excise tax is the federal tax, or is?
It's a federal tax that is placed upon,
See you, Linda.
you can get reimbursed for the amount of money that you paid for, fuel.
So like we're exempt, so we get a reduction of the tax.
Yep, we get reimbursed about $5,000 a year.
Right, so we have to pay so go ahead.
Yeah, so the reimbursement is one part of it, and then there are multiple fines because nobody responded to the audit request.
Oh,
And then by the time we sent in the required documents, it was past the deadline, but I did send them all in,
right.
and I faxed them just last week again. So they've had them twice, but I haven't been able to connect with somebody who can actually talk about our issue. The person that I was talking to told me to fax the information and she would put it on the right person's desk. But that's basically what we did last time.
That person's number and name?
I do, and this is Miss Lazenby.
What are you
And her phone number is here.
suggesting?
The IRS is kind of a big deal. My
suggestion is we write a memo, we document everything you did and throw it in the swamp, because they're
Right.
non-responsive.
I'm not getting too wound up in this. You've got documentation, you contacted them, you've sent them everything.
I've called them I've called them 10 times and they haven't.
But you've got everything
Yeah.
documented.
Everything's
I'm
documented.
not too worried about this one.
I
Just,
put a cover sheet on it, send it back to them.
yeah, that
Yeah,
lady
okay.
cut her again and said, hey,
Haven't heard anything.
we haven't heard anything back and we're not gonna respond till we hear from you. We've sent you this many times.
Yeah, and the person that originally was on the paperwork has never called me back.
Yeah, I don't think I would
left,
even,
like,
I think phone calls are probably not gonna be productive. I mean, it's good that you call 10 times, but
Yeah, but they're not responding.
based on what I'm hearing from my accountant, they're understaffed, they're overworked, they're not responsive. So, I mean,
They'll keep sending that out.
So just,
I wouldn't worry about it that much. I'd make sure I had all that thing, its own folder and file.
yeah.
I think every month you send, hey, I haven't heard from you, here's an update,
Yeah.
send.
And keep a copy for us and send another one to them.
Yeah, keep accurate, but I wouldn't.
What, is there penalties associated with past?
Yes, this is all penalties and
No, I
reimbursement.
know that, but you
Yeah.
said that the invoice was due May 2nd?
The current stack of invoices, and I actually haven't
No,
seen,
I agree with these
are
guys.
due May 2nd, so if we don't go there, then that's the decision you made, then you just know, I know, that we're not sending in those bills.
I don't know, I mean, what do you think, Tom? I mean,
Well, if you
But
contact
is
you,
it
they
like a,
contact you back, that's not our problem.
As long when they finally get onto it, you show all the times you made contact with them.
Mhm.
This is all the times we sent this to, and every time you document it, you send it.
why don't you do, send a copy to our 3 congressional delegates and say we're not,
Oh, that's a real.
we don't have, we're not be able to get response. We wanna be compliant with the May 2nd deadline, but we have nearly responses, and we're not gonna spend money that we think we don't owe just because to meet a deadline. And copy, reach out to John Tracy,
Mhm. Yeah.
our friends at, I bet Congressman Welch's office is gonna be pretty
They
responsive
might be
right
more
now.
responsive.
Yeah, they might,
Would TJ, would he be involved?
no,
TJ?
I don't think so. I mean, it's a federal issue,
Yeah,
so.
it is. Okay, that's a good idea. All right, so that's not my whole report. Let me just make sure I get back to it.
Yeah, and those guys, all those congressmen, senators, they have ombudsmen, they have direct, they have direct people in the IRS who are gonna work for them.
Okay. So you know that I submitted, so any questions or comments on that one?
Nope.
No? Okay. Submitted the structures grant for the North Road near Parity. And then I also wrote 3 engineering grants for the North Road 15, which is the structures grant we currently have. North Road 12, which is the one near Parity, which is pending right now. And North Road 9, which is pending with a Better Backroads grant. Each of the engineering grants is $20,000 each. Jim asked me to submit them in order of priority, so I prioritized the one that we would be constructing next year that we're currently funding, that's currently funded. And then he said he would see how much money is available for all of them. So we've done a structures grant, 3 engineering grants, and a blacktop or a pavement grant.
Good.
And then we also have those 2 Better Backroads grants, which I don't know. I need to follow up and find out when we get those. Jouer Road, construction inspectors, I just wanna let you know that, because we haven't completely sent everything to FEMA, I'm gonna send all of the construction inspector bids to them too. And we did have the consulting archaeology, department come out and they did the, archaeological, review phase 1. And if we had needed to do more phases, they would have, but they found nothing, so.
Outstanding,
Yep.
that's great,
That's gone to, the Army Corps and we're awaiting a permit, so.
cool.
The only last thing is that Linda and Dave need to get that easement signed still, so.
Wait, so Dave was gonna go make a field trip.
With
That-
Linda
That
to-
didn't happen yet?
It
Or-
hasn't happened.
Hmm.
Linda needs to be a notary, for that, and I haven't received my notary. I applied and did the grant, and did the, test, and I haven't received anything in the mail yet, so.
we probably should make sure that's in the minutes, so we don't miss it.
Right,
Next
next meeting, make sure that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that easement is done.
Yeah.
Call David and see.
The ARPA report is one other really good thing about the Jouer Road is that, I heard from the, liaison from the state, the, FEMA liaison from the state, the 4474 grants, of which this one is, FEMA will now obligate 90% of the cost share versus 75%, which is
Good.
really good. And that does actually bring up, I don't know how or when you usually utilize funding from the Capital Projects Fund. It's a separate bank account. And currently, we have, hold on. Currently, we have $65,504 available. And it's an auto renewable CD, which comes to maturity on the 3rd of next month, so between our meetings. And then again on the 3rd of August, so later in the summer. So
Does that mean we can't touch it in that period?
we can only touch it for 10 days after it matures. So we can draw down from it.
What's it paying?
Yeah.
I can
I don't
find
think it
out.
matters.
1.2%.
You're right.
I don't really.
Yeah, for that restriction, we're probably getting 0.1% or something.
Right, so maybe if you're gonna need it for that, or partial of it, whatever amount, you should pull it out of it.
I think so too. I don't think you're gonna be making anything on it.
I
I
think
could go up, but
I think that because the Jouer Road is a reimbursable grant and we do have some funding from the taxpayers for construction, and we haven't identified exactly what we're gonna be using that money for, it would make sense for you to consider pulling down on it before the August deadline, or the August renewal. These are all of them, but,
Yeah, well, I don't think it needs a motion.
Yeah, it's just business.
Whatever. I think the board is saying,
Is there a percentage of that you'd like to leave in there?
well, what do you think we need? What?
So let me think here. Our bid for the Jouer Road was over $300,000, of which 90% will be reimbursed, but we have to pay for that project, and it will be soon. So I do think that having a slush of money there would be very helpful. Like if we can, I don't know what you usually do. Do you usually, if you go into these, do you pull all of it? Do you close the account? Do you leave something? How does that work?
where do you put it?
We would put it into the operational budget.
Capital fund?
Well, first it goes into the checking account, and then we would do a journal entry to put it into capital.
So
funds.
according to that, 10%, you're gonna need at least 30,000 of it, minimum.
Okay.
For our share, right?
Right.
So do you wanna take 40 out to cover extra? And
So what's this for?
It's for our share of that FEMA thing down in Jewett.
But isn't payment kind of based on progress and stuff?
It's reimbursement. So we do have to put some money into it in order to
In
get money
stages.
out.
Well,
of it.
why don't, whatever you think we need to put in on a time frame that you think we need,
Okay.
draw down to meet that obligation.
Okay.
The biggest thing is don't renew the CD.
Yeah,
Right.
right. Don't tie your hands.
Yeah, keep it so it's available for
Right.
usage.
Okay. Okay.
Can't go out to the interest.
And then when we do get reimbursed, we put money back into that same account. So that, that project down by Robbie Danny's, we got money. That's how we've done it in the past.
Right.
So we kept that money separated so we'd have it for these projects.
Okay. So that is very helpful.
That's a lot of good news.
Yeah, so far. The IRS kind of threw me for a loop, but that's okay.
They throw us off for a
Oh,
loop,
man.
don't they? Yeah.
The ARPA report is complete. I'm waiting for, I had to put in a ticket that I need to be the full administrator of that fund. The grant
ARPA
compliance
report for
for
2021
2021 was submitted.
is submitted.
Mhm.
Oh, good.
But it's through me, and I'm not the funding administrator. I'm the report person, so I'm the compliance person. And I have a ticket in to become the full, Jonathan is still on that account. So, we do, and I mentioned before, we do need to establish systems of compliance. I've learned a lot more about all the things that we need to do now that I've seen the inner workings of this reporting process. So, we are really thinking with this money, this is like the rule of thumb. We're either thinking about doing a sub-recipient, which is another entity carrying out eligible uses of the fund, therefore, all of their operations have to be in compliance, and we have to be actively monitoring their activities. Or their beneficiaries, or it's ourselves, and the beneficiaries or ourselves are receiving funds as a result of experiencing a negative economic outcome because of the pandemic. So you could say that your project, for example, is, I don't know, something, social services, and just grant money to the social services in town. And then how they use that is based on the fact that they lost money during the pandemic. And that way, we don't have to monitor how they use the money, it's just reimbursing. The other option is the subrecipient. So this is just, I don't think we need to make any decisions, I just want you to know that those are the sort of the two categories that we have to.
Main things we're gonna do is pretty much, if I'm not mistaken, pretty much infrastructure, right?
Right,
Isn't that kind of what we're,
yeah,
it's like there's water meters and,
yeah.
so I was kind of wishing John and this water district would have been here to
And
get one thing. long
Well,
term.
after that motion, maybe they will be here next, yeah.
Well,
they'll-
maybe they will, but
Yeah.
they gotta come and
Yeah,
approach
oh,
us.
sure, oh, yeah, but we got some time.
Yeah,
yeah.
and it also may help us, we see how this one works out, how
Yeah,
fast they
yeah.
get it responsive.
It's actually a good start.
Yeah, so I think what Gavin is giving, the consensus of the board is, given the amount of money and the amount of projects that we think,
Right,
infrastructure, these kind of.
Yeah.
So.
we're gonna pretty much use it up for our
Yeah.
shares on things.
Yeah.
So that's a little feedback to your kind of probing for.
Yeah, it was a sort of a
Yeah.
probe and sort of an encouragement, I think, on my part too, if we can keep it in-house, or, every single time we give it away, I'm creating a whole new structure and infrastructure around that project. So every time we do that, so that was my aha moment for that. So I think the only other thing here is that I wanted to give you an update on the equipment fund CD. So I'm not sure, I've taken about 7 hours of training with NEMRIC over the course of the last 4 or 5 weeks. And I've learned a lot about how we report, how we communicate numbers, what we need to do, what we don't do, what we did last year that we shouldn't do ever again. And I've been replicating a lot of the things that Amanda did when she was in my place. So that includes making journal entries, moving money if we need to, how we look at the funding. And for whatever reason, I think that maybe because I was green, we looked at our end of the year fund balance and came up with the wrong number. Our fund balance for 2021 was $81,046. $46. So
And what fund, about the whole thing?
that's the fund balance for last year. Yeah, and we have currently 333,000 as like a slush. I was talking to Amanda about where did that come from, and she said that fund balance from years past. At one point, there was a kind of a close call with having a pretty tight budget. So for a few years afterwards, she said that there was no transfer of the surplus into capital. It was left as surplus. So that surplus continues. It's still there. It's $333,000. So that's your buffer if you go over or under something with the operating budget. So
We don't use
This
the word
is-
slush.
I know, not slush,
We have
but-
contingency balances, we have.
Thank you.
Unappropriated funds.
unappropriated
Yeah,
funds. Thank
because-
you. That's not slush fund, but it is unappropriated funds. That it's a helpful thing. And all towns have one, for the most part. They try to. And so that $81,046 has been approved by the voters to go into the capital fund, the equipment fund, excuse me. And I am planning, that matures also next week, so I was planning on making that transfer next week. And that auto renews every month, so you never have to worry too much when the equipment comes in on if we can draw down on that. So I just wanted to make sure you knew that,
So that
and
number was
quite
quite
a
a bit
bit
larger than
larger than
what
what
we had thought,
we
what we
had
had
thought.
planned.
Mhm.
So,
What
so
was the
with that
original
80,
number?
with the 81, so when we put 81 with what we have already in the equipment fund, how much do we have?
$93,200, but we have 50,000 that we had discussed putting down for the, the new truck, which, I mean, that's up to you if that's what you wanna do, or if you wanna.
So there's $81,000.
loan.
What's this $300,000 number that I'm hearing? What is it? So
That's
there's-
previous year,
So this
fund
year,
balance.
we have $81,000. At the end of the year, everything's closed out. So that the 300,000 is like past.
it just comes along with
So there is 300,000.
there is 300,000, which is,
300,000 plus 81,000.
the 81,000 is for just last year. They're separate, they show up separately on the accounting, on the balance sheet.
So the 81 will go into the equipment fund, so you're carrying forward in this general fund,
Mhm.
300 change, whatever it is. So you're carrying that forward.
Mhm.
So that's an equipment fund, that 300.
That 300 is just carried forward every year.
Right in your general funding.
And it kind of goes back to that conversation about, what do we do?
And
What-
part of
what do
that
we
money, I
want
think,
for-
is reimbursement some years from FEMA things. We had 2-3 years, remember Tom?
They came in after.
They came in after the years were closed
Mhm.
and they got put in that way. And we did it, and I remember, we did some of that just to cover ourselves down the line. So you aren't borrowing sums of money that you don't have to borrow.
For unexpected.
Yeah, for things, you know, like one year we had to buy an extra 5,000 yards of sand. You know, that kind of deal there, like, there's a
Yeah.
$50,000 deal right off the bat, you got no control over.
I don't have any I defer to the wisdom and experience that's being articulated about contingency. But I will say, we need more transparency, given this kind of, you're kind of
Absolutely.
getting so we should name that, as a saying, some kind of we wanna have that in our budget process, so that we're not at a April 22nd board meeting talking about
I totally agree. It just, in general, my goal is to be much more transparent. What I mean by that is if you look at our most recent town report, it was scaled way back from the previous year, which included, and all of the previous years, which included our entire audit. I think that's a little overkill. I read it, but I don't know that everybody does.
The audit?
What was it?
You mean the audit?
The
itself,
audit,
you're
the
right.
actual audit was in there?
And the cost
but
of
there's
printing
a-
was going up and
Right.
you're paying for something that most,
Yeah,
not all.
most people don't.
Most
yeah.
people are like, no, I'm gonna see what the end balance is, what are my taxes gonna be?
Right. But what we lost when we went from full audit to just the money in our operating funds is a report of all of the CDs, all of the actual, your actuals, your liabilities, the things that give the voter an informed, look at what is it we have as a community. So moving forward, that's my goal, and toward that end, I had a meeting with the library on Monday. There are 2 new trustees, so I gave them a 101 on how to read their budgets and what it looks like and
So
where
who
they're
did they
from.
get for new trustees?
What was that?
Who did they
Michelle
get?
Feiner and,
Yeah, there's a three-way race for the third.
yeah, I can't
For the-
remember.
for the
Melissa? Somebody.
Yeah.
I can't remember it last.
Yeah.
But they are also working on their what is it? Their
End of their
how they want to.
end of their debt. That's their big.
Yeah, they're trying to figure out. They're going to do a little retreat on what do they want to do with the investment funds. They'll be coming to you with their not purchasing policy, but their procedures, their fund management procedures, and also how they go about the business of managing their money. So they're putting all of that together, and this was partially so that they understand the role that I play in managing their money. I think there was some not misunderstanding, but I just don't think there was a lot of knowledge So it was the two new people were originally invited, and then I invited the rest of the trustees if they wanted to come. So we did a PowerPoint and walked through everything.
Good.
So that's that. The only other part is not really part of my report, it's part of the agenda, so I'm not sure if you wanna go into that at this point. It's the policies conversation.
Well, let's get some of this other stuff done first, in my
Yep.
mind.
Okay.
The bids on a car, I think they're gonna go get some more, because they can't find a tank that fits in the truck. The St. Rock's Bridge, we just discussed that, right, about getting a hydro. Yeah. And the East Fairfield Tax. Let's get that one out of the way.
So this is the discussion that we had last meeting, that the people in East Fairfield came forward and were complaining about the danger of getting in and out of the village on, up over the hill by Aubie Maury's.
Yeah.
And they want signage to include a blind hill sign, a school bus stop ahead sign. They feel like some signage would help protect a tourist from getting crashed.
So those are two main signages they were hoping to.
For the one right by Aubie Maury's, and they would also like a yield sign at the junction of Boot Hill and Lapland.
Okay. Seem like,
If we put a yield sign, that has to be amended in the traffic ordinance.
so that means the ones coming off from Medcap Pond Road would yield to,
No, the other way around. Lapland Road always yielded to the,
I'll say they want to reverse that. I thought you were talking up by Boot Hill itself, by Miner's old house, that's Boot Hill, right?
Boot Hill starts at the Y, right?
Oh,
You
right
said
at the
Lapland, at the
They
Y.
said at Boot Hill and Lapland is where they want a yield sign.
So that's all down the foot of the hill, you turn up to your barn and then
Right
you
at
go
that
up
Y, yes.
to, right at the Y.
So
Yes,
the,
and that was always, you always let the traffic to your right go, so
so the
that was,
law says,
Yeah, what's the law say?
the law says that you yield to the through road. So if there's a T intersection, which that is
That's a Y.
that's a Y.
it really a Y?
Yeah,
Pretty much,
just
yeah,
like this,
yeah, it really is, pretty much.
this
a Y.
goes to the,
So a Y is similar to Church Hill and Berry. It's a Y.
Probably, yeah, similar,
It's a Y.
but yeah.
So in an uncontrolled intersection, so if we leave it with no yield sign, in an uncontrolled intersection, you yield to someone who's in the intersection when you get there. If two people get there at the same time, you yield to the guy on the right. If you're crossing traffic, you yield. No one knows that except kids coming out of my program. So you can solve that problem by making a decision. This traffic yields to that traffic and putting up a yield sign.
I mean, I was always told that you yield to the traffic to the right, so we
If
all,
two people arrive at the same time, you yield to the car on your right.
you know, if somebody's coming down, I always stop and let them,
That's the smart
Continue down.
decision. That is the smart decision.
No wonder you're still alive in Lewiston.
That's right.
So, do we wanna put a yield sign, you know what we're talking about?
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Ryan, are you any clue where we're talking about?
Yeah.
So do we wanna just put a yield sign up?
simple, I guess, I mean, I think most people do, I don't know what the issue is, it's never been enacted, but.
I think they wanted to be heard and they want to see us do something for them. That was really my impression.
Yeah. Hey, I
That
don't
was my
have a problem with
impression.
the
For
yield
the cost
sign.
of a sign,
Yeah,
if it'll make them happy, we should do it.
the one of us,
So it's a double sign, right, or do you just put one with X number of feet before the intersection, or do you have to put a?
you have to put a yield ahead and then.
You do not have
You
to
do,
put a yield
okay.
ahead, you can just put a yield.
So-
I mean, I can check the book, but
Right. So why not, I make a
Got the
motion,
bus.
we,
So where would the yield sign be on this road, right? Come, this one?
Is it blind coming over the hill from the barnyard? Not really.
So you
You're
want
traveling
to-
down, it'd be
You
on
got
this one
plenty
to
of
your
room, 'cause
left.
you
You
got
got
all
from
go
here,
all the way
you got
from
from here
Roberts.
to,
He's got that, wouldn't it be the
Yeah,
one on the
so-
left?
huh?
It'd be the road on the left, right? This is Lapland Road. So you'd have Lapland Road as a yield to.
This is the one you gotta yield, you yield to these people
Yeah,
coming
coming
down
down
here,
the
cause
hill,
when you
okay.
come down, I was always top, you yield to the people on the right.
Okay,
So you put the yield on this road,
Yeah.
and this one has the right of way
okay.
So where do you want the yield sign?
on the Lapland Road. And that gives you, like you said, you yield to the
Traffic on.
traffic on the right.
So the traffic ordinance needs to be amended to include that Lapland Road is a yield road at the junction of Boot Hill.
So
Someone make,
move,
yeah,
I'll
Someone
make that
second it?
motion.
someone second.
Second.
Anybody opposed? All in favor?
And then what about,
There's
get
Mo, the reason I brought this up, does Mo weigh in on this? I mean, that's why I kinda,
It doesn't,
I
doesn't
don't
make
think
any difference.
Doesn't affect Mo one way or the other.
okay.
You just, all he's gotta do is put the sign up.
there's a book, Brian, the Municipal Uniform Traffic Control Device Act, that dictates how signage should work in every municipality.
Yeah, and what I'm saying is, I don't have a clue about that, so I'm hesitant to do what citizens want without knowing like a law, it's,
That's what.
That's what I'm here for.
That's
Yeah.
what she does.
well, there you go.
Because that's what I do
Because
for
I-
a living.
Yeah, I want it, I'm less eager to please citizens that are complaining when, I'm happy to do that if it's in compliance with the law.
Right.
That's what we're
That's
doing.
what, okay, that's what
We're
I'm,
not just putting it up for the safety of putting one up, we're putting it up with compliance of the,
I feel good about that then.
yes.
You'll sleep better tonight, Brian?
Yeah, well, I'm hesitant to vote on something I don't know
If
anything
you want
about.
some light reading, I do have that
Well,
book in my
yeah,
office.
no, that's not a traffic ordinance. A yield sign, creating a yield intersection needs to be in the ordinance.
No, but I mean, you
But
need
the
a,
other two signs do not need to be in the ordinance.
no,
It's
but you
just
need a
warning
motion for
signs.
them to put up.
You can make one if you want, I don't know that it's necessary, you just business as usual, it's like,
It's part of
you wanna
road
put a
maintenance.
sign, put a sign.
Yeah, it's not, that kind of signage, I agree with you, I
Yeah,
think it's
it
just
doesn't
case we
need
put it up.
I don't think it needs a motion, so what it would be and we put up lots of signage without motions before, so no, it doesn't need a motion.
Here, I'm
So
making a
a
motion,
school
we're gonna
bus-
put the sign, I make a motion, we put the sign up, and you can report back to these citizens that the board heard their, I make a motion that we put the sign up.
Now, you're making a motion for the blind hill ahead and, what was the other thing?
The school bus stop,
School bus stop,
so this would be at the top of the hill,
just past the bridge and,
probably on
Bridge
Bridge Street, there should be that's Bridge Street that comes up right across from Bobby's,
Yes.
yes.
right? So that one
No,
should
yeah,
have a
that's
blind
Bridge Street.
hill.
Mill Street is where the sign would go, right?
You're
One
right.
side,
Coming up from East Fairfield.
yeah. In theory, I
And then
guess
the
you should put
school
a yield,
bus-
you should put a yield sign.
On
Coming
Bridge-
Well,
on
but
Bridge
it's,
Street.
On Bridge Street.
that's a T intersection, it
Oh, so they
is
gotta
a
stop.
yield,
They
it
gotta,
is a yield,
no matter what, so when no
that's
waste
the
of
law, if somebody comes flying off that road
sign and hit someone,
and hits someone, it's like all of the dead end roads on the North Road,
Right.
we put stop signs on them,
yeah,
or some of them we don't have them.
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, the law says you must yield to the through road, so Pumpkin Village, Menard, Church, like all those roads are.
Yeah.
You can make them stops if you want, you can put a yield sign if you want, you can do whatever,
So
like
basically, the two signs we want up there and need to put up,
Blind Hill
yeah.
and school bus stop.
So do they stop at Albee, to where Albee's boy lives now? Is that where they need to stop for school bus?
Must be, cause they were concerned about people coming up over the hill, coming over the hill and the bus being stopped and kids being
So
waited
does the sign need to be
up
back,
on top of the
The
hill.
bus stop would need to be,
back by Albee's driveway somewhere?
or farther back, probably back by the old Pelkey house,
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
to give them time to slow
Stop.
down.
Yeah.
That's the
The
goal,
blind hill, is that a standard MUTCD sign?
yes,
It is.
yes,
And that would be on this side,
very common,
Yeah.
this side heading
Coming
up
up
the
from the
hill.
bridge.
yeah.
And the other one must be a yield, but I would say I don't know if you could put just, I mean, most people know, But the
Well, that's-
traffic coming up
If
from,
they've got their driver's license, according to Melissa, they should be knowing this stuff.
no, but I'm just saying,
Which is
there's
BS,
kind of a, you
Yeah,
know, you have a ill, you can't see,
no,
you're, when you come off Bridge Street, you can't
Right.
see down over that hill.
no.
that was one of the primary concerns.
But I don't know what kind of a sign you could put on Bridge Street,
Why put
kind of warn
blind
them.
intersection?
Okay, I would put one there, and just to cover our
Yeah,
blind intersection to the left, I guess, or if that's a,
I don't know.
you can see to the right, all right, you can't see to the left.
So we're all in favor of doing this, right?
I don't think there was a second for Brian's motion.
I don't think it needs a motion.
No.
I wanted to make a motion, I made a motion, you don't have to
to.
pass it, I made a motion, and you're gonna put old Pelkey's house, I mean, cause
No.
Tom was coming up where to put the sign.
Well,
So that's why I think
see,
we
if
gotta
no
be-
one- If no one seconds your motion, it just dies.
Yeah, sure, I know,
So,
it's fine.
and we
I'm glad I'm not the one putting the signs up. Cause you know, to follow this conversation, I mean,
She's got it all down.
okay.
that's
Well,
what
there's rules that say where you're gonna have those, so
so many feet back, so far from the edge. And,
Does he have an MUTC book?
Yeah,
Yes.
he has he has two actually. I used to have one of them, but I think.
Well, and that's why I'm saying, if he has the book, then we should have had the discussion with him,
Do you have
and
the fat one or the skinny one?
we should,
Skinny one.
here's what, if Mo has the book, we should have had this conversation with Mo, and we should have said, hey, study the rules and report to us next meeting, instead of us designing this thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, but she's got the book, she can tell them where it
Yeah.
is.
Okay?
You have the
Well-
skinny book.
I have the skinny one.
Okay.
okay, so we all set with this?
Yep.
That's all I got with that.
Okay. Okay, so what's, how long is this policy thing gonna take?
Oh, I don't know. Depends on when you stop me, I guess.
Stop.
What time is it now? What time is it now?
It's
I don't-
8:52.
Okay.
How long do you wanna go?
We could start on it tonight, I don't think we're
Okay.
gonna get the whole thing done, so not no later than 9:30.
Okay.
Is this the only,
I take one and pass it on.
okay.
So, this might look familiar to you, I brought something like this before. Remember the, pavilion grant that is funded by, a HUD program requires federal funding policies. And so all of these policies are also something that was included in the ARPA, agreements. We've decided not to sign the pavilion grant agreement until we figured out the policy situation. And Emily, what's her name?
Why was
Clough?
texting while driving be
So
Fairfield policy?
Emily Clough
Not easy.
provided,
Wait.
yep, Emily Clough provided us a list of all of the policies that are required for this particular grant, and those are similar to the grant, like FEMA grants and also
Yeah.
ARPA grants. So when I brought that to you, it was a little too much too fast, I think, and there were some questions. So what I did was I went through, and decided where we already have some of these, and if not, what we need. And I'd like to just propose that to you. So the equal opportunity, policy, that's already there, it's done. It's in the, we also have a drug-free workplace
Check.
policy, it's in there, in the personnel policy. There's a policy in here called the VCDP Funds for Federal Lobbying, which says that this particular grant isn't gonna be used for federal lobbying, it's completely focused and specific to this grant. So I wouldn't, if I were you, put in a new policy, I would, when we decide if we're ready to sign that document, it'll just go into place for this particular grant. Code of ethics, we just passed in the new revised purchasing policy, so that's done.
Cool.
Fair housing. So there are some things in here that don't make sense because we're not doing.
What are you saying here? What are you?
So there are some things in the document that you're looking at that it doesn't seem to make sense to have these policies. One of them is the fair housing policy. And partially it's because we don't have programs building houses through the municipal funds, right? So the policy that was set forth by Emily, I did a little tweaking and I said this policy applies to all housing programs, both present and future, so that it's relevant. And it says that all are in part funded through federal or state funds. So then we have all of these pieces to that policy that are within that caveat of we're not actually doing this at this time. So that's something to review. We have,
Wait a minute.
yeah.
There could be another way of doing it, instead of saying like they're all past and future. We could also say, fair housing doesn't apply to us, we don't have any housing, because we're not taking any housing grants, are we, or?
Not that I'm aware of.
No, but so this is what we talked about before, and I think Gavin brought this up. Why would we agree to a policy that if it doesn't apply to us, why would we want that policy? And really, the only answer is that it's in order to be in compliance with the grant and federal funds.
Well, we're not being compliant, but we're like, let's say we said, okay, we agree to accept these housing, and then a year from now, somebody says, show us where you've been in agreement. Or demonstrate to us that wouldn't we just say, under our existing programs, we're in compliance, period.
You could probably do
It's
it.
like excessive force, we don't have a police department, we have no,
But just on a housing,
Yeah.
before we, is there another way to say that? I mean, state what you said, and then we just say, hey, we're, under our current programs, we're compliant.
So this is the document here is modeled after the 24 Code of Federal Regulations, Part 6. And if we decide if we want to do different language, that's fine. And I'll talk to Emily about that to see if that will work.
I think same thing, similar to the next one, excessive force use.
So similarly, I said in the event that the town of Fairfield ever employs law enforcement, this municipality will.
Yeah,
So,
that sounds reasonable. I mean,
and it says prohibit the use of excessive force and prohibit law enforcement agencies from physically barring entrance to a facility or a location that is subject to nonviolent civil rights demonstrations.
Well, like that same kind of statement, couldn't we do for housing, instead of having something that's 3 pages, that's, like 2
In
pages?
the event that the town of Fairfield ever has a program.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so then it would be, in the event, we would be agreeing to this.
Right, something like
Which
that.
is sort of what I say, which is the policy set forth is, I can take both present and future out and just put in the event, yeah.
Yeah.
Would
How's that sound?
that be okay?
Sounds more like we don't set ourselves up for stuff we don't need.
Let's see, use of excessive force, subrecipient oversight monitoring fund. Interestingly, this is not directly applicable to this project because they don't have subrecipients of this money, but it is all over the ARPA funds. And the federal grant subrecipient oversight monitoring policy is based on 2 CFR Part 200 of the Uniform Federal Guidance. So I copied and pasted that directly from what is required. So that's something to consider.
Well, what is it? I mean, is it?
It's if basically what we were talking about before with the water district, if they are taking ARPA money, then we have to be in partnership with them and we have to provide oversight and make sure that they're adhering to federal standards for the use of funds and that they're not using it in inappropriate ways, basically.
I don't know, this makes me a little nervous, so.
It's a pretty
Well,
heavy
because it
one.
says federal grant subrecipient oversight monitoring. Paragraph 4, reviewing labor standards if applicable, appropriate wage. We got a mom and pop
I know.
water district here
I know.
that is gonna,
And I did print off the compliance and reporting guidance for the ARPA funds. and it says that right in here that we're supposed to be doing it. I hear you though, it's heavy, that's what I mean, like, we're not just going into giving the money, we're going into
Well,
full-on,
yeah, but
you
we
know,
could take exception and let
partnerships.
someone else say, hey, you can't do that, Mother may I, we don't have to, you know, we could be transparent, just say, hey, this is, you know, our oversight is, we've asked them to follow up in a year, but we're not gonna get into like how they pay their employees and.
Why do we need a policy when it's already in the CFR?
So again, it really, we asked this to Emily a few times and her answer was that it's a requirement for this grant.
For us to follow the CFR?
For us to have a policy in
Okay, so
place.
Emily is the,
Emily Clough.
yeah,
she's-
but that is the one, I mean, so I'm a little more comfortable with like one program for one, you know, like if they need this for one grant compliance, so what is that, like 30 grand or something?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, that's a whole nother thing on bringing that whole
Right.
oversight into the water district and, you know, ARPA.
Right, so, the original document, was municipal policies and codes form, and it starts, so this is the Vermont Community Development Programs, 2021 Agency of Commerce, Municipal Codes and Policies for Federal Grants. And it says, consistent with the provisions of the Community Development Program and federal law, Fairfield, Vermont has adopted the following policies and codes. So this is a document, in order to sign that grant and say we want the money, they have this document that says that we have to be in compliance with these
Well,
grants.
then I would suggest, since this is our policy, we would scrub this, just like we did the community common school, and we make this much less detailed. We don't wanna get into labor practices, labor stand, we don't wanna go there.
I know,
I mean,
and that's actually why we're hiring, I mean, really, when it comes to compliance, that's, for the Jouer Road, that's why we have a monitoring person, because they have to do all of that for the FEMA grants.
yeah, well,
They have to
that's,
look at their costs and labor standards.
yeah, that's a FEMA grant, I mean, that's, well,
So this actually, even though it doesn't apply to, it doesn't make sense, I don't think, for this particular project, but it's all over the Victorian I actually, in order to give
well, we're gonna,
them the
listen,
money,
here, look,
give them the information. Yeah.
we're good up to 6.
Yes.
Seven,
I think that.
7, we're gonna have to ask other towns or VLCT or something, cause that, we're not gonna sign up for that, we're not gonna take line. I think would be irresponsible
Okay.
for us to, so let's put our thinking cap on 7.
Gavin, were you gonna say something you had?
Nope,
No.
Brian's catching up.
Alright.
No, I mean, I think there's a way for you,
There's gotta be a way to phrase stuff differently, that we comply, but we're not legally obligating ourselves to some stuff that we have no way of monitoring.
yeah, and I think you even gave us an out for that, you kinda said there's
I
2
did.
ways, you can either do the grant subrecipient oversight, or you can say,
Right.
what is it?
I wrote it down on that policy, which is here. In the event that this takes place.
I think it was hardship or something. It
Yeah,
was-
in the event that the town, oh, that part, yeah, so we can either have,
Enough to meet.
Whistleblower
yeah, I
and
can
that's
write
it.
down this one.
The
That's-
texting part I don't understand.
I know,
What the hell's that got to do with all this other money stuff?
it's just,
Well, let me
honest
tell
to
you,
God, I'm just the
let me
messenger,
tell
this
you.
is what they
Yeah,
told
no,
me.
but listen,
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
others may feel
seriously.
differently. I think we're good 1 through 6.
Mhm.
You've got it, I think at 8, yeah, we wanna have whistleblower protection. I mean, no retaliation if, you know, body of good, I have a problem with that. And texting and driving, yeah, I don't have
Yes,
a problem with
that's
that either.
Yeah, and that just prohibits the practice of
Yeah,
texting.
so let's,
But how long is the policy, what's the new writing on it, of those 2?
what's the what, Tom?
The new
This is-
policy on 8 and 9. I mean, I only have
About
the,
8, 9.
Oh, do we have a policy on that? Do we have?
The
P.E.G.
texting.
No Fairfield policy, CU policy.
Yeah, so these are the new policies that I put together. One is the texting while driving, which is pretty short and sweet. Also, the use of excessive force is also pretty short and sweet. And then the whistleblower protection. And I had the fair housing one, but I'm gonna revise that one now. And the subrecipient oversight and monitoring,
That's,
which is that one
Yeah.
I'll synthesize and make
well,
more
I
focused
think
on.
I think you're doing great. Go back to school on, I mean, we don't want people texting and driving, right?
No,
And we don't
No,
want,
but we want it short and simple, we don't need it
it's very,
seven pages long.
why don't
No,
you read
it's-
what you got?
yeah, it's
Why
like.
don't you read what you got?
It's pretty short there, Tom. If you don't look at it.
Well, why don't you put your thinking cap and be compliant with the intent of that, or find us a way not to get into, we don't wanna get into water districts, and come back in the next meeting.
Yep.
Is that right?
I mean, yeah, it's the federal grant subrecipient oversight is about if we decide to have a subrecipient of any federal grants, which is like the water district. They're gonna get some money and then we're creating the system.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean,
Short and simple, I guess, right?
what, do you feel comfortable reviewing that policy and trying to?
I do, I also just, the reason I hesitate on this, the subrecipient policy is because there are actual documents that I have to go through if we want to report on what we're doing, and I have to talk about the business, I have to talk about the practices, I have to talk about their compliance standards
Okay,
in certain
one
areas. So-
thing I do remember is that the ARPA said we can even use some of those funding to help with reporting.
Yes, absolutely, you
And,
can
and so,
hire somebody to
we
do
gotta,
this stuff.
we gotta,
Yeah. Or
we
do it.
we gotta keep in mind that we're not going to we're not gonna impose bureaucracy
Fair housing,
on a water district
this is the federal grant.
that's gonna change it.
Not bad.
Oh, pretty simple.
These three we can adopt, I think.
So if you feel comfortable signing those tonight, I'll squirrel them away with the purchasing policy that we adopted
That
earlier.
was about 7, 8, 9, right?
Yep, it was the fair housing policy, the
Texting and.
subrecipient, oh yeah, those,
No, fair housing, but not here.
not yet, yep. Texting is good.
Well, you wanna sign it, or
This
start back at change?
one is
We need to
good.
make a motion to accept those policies, so number 7 and 8 and 9.
Think so, signing is one thing and then it goes in the minutes with the motion.
Law enforcement, which is 6. This is 6.
Yeah, she's actually made some changes on fair housing.
Texting is 9.
Yeah, I'm gonna change the fair housing and bring it back to with the next meeting, and I have to go back to the drawing board on the federal grant subrecipient oversight and monitoring policy. But just heads up,
And
I'm,
8.
I've seen the back end of these reporting processes,
6,
and
8, 9.
I don't see how we'll get around this, ever.
Of this.
Got it,
Yeah.
thank you.
But I can go do a little more research on that one, so that maybe we can change the way in which we're,
Okay, so
Addressing it.
Tom made a motion, 6, 8, and 9.
Yep.
6, 8, and 9.
I'll second.
Okay, is anybody opposed? All in favor?
So we just need the fair housing and subrecipient
Okay.
oversight changes.
You've done a great job
Thank you,
with all these other things, and you've done, so see if you can get 7 over the finish line.
will do. Yeah.
And think of that, you know,
Oh, I'm thinking. It's yeah. I wanna also say, I appreciate all of your support around this. It's tricky, so,
well, think of the good that we're doing with that money too, though.
absolutely. All right, that's it for me.
Okay, would somebody make a motion to accept the warrants?
Do we have one?
Yep.
Yeah, did you want those done?
One thing from the minutes that we haven't discussed, that we could probably put on,
I took all the stickers out.
discuss staff contingency plans in the event of emergency. So I mean, that's not, we're not
That can-
gonna
we
solve
can
that
bump
tonight at
down.
9 o'clock at night, but.
No.
You've done the warrants?
And I think we're okay for it.
Already looked at them?
Yeah,
So I
that's
have 3 signatures on all of them, Tom, but if you wanna look at them, I can
No,
grab them.
that's fine. If I- no, I'll just make a motion, we'll accept it, and if they've already done it.
Second.
Seconded. Anyone opposed? All in favor? Good.
I make a motion we adjourn.
Yeah,
Second.
yeah, we're in business.